Some women like to be pretty, but I think it's good that you're really cute instead. He then got upset when I tried to explain that wasn't really a compliment. I once had a conversation with someone who took their son to the ER for a paper cut. She was saying that it wouldn't stop bleeding, but when I asked, she said she kept opening it to see if it had stopped bleeding yet. I showed up to a girl's place to get her for our first date and got pissed that she was still in casual clothes and nowhere near ready. I told her forget it, I didn't put up with such rudeness. Once I got back home, I looked at my watch and realized that I had been an hour early. Oops. I very briefly had a nursing job at a substance abuse recovery house for teens. I was doing the admission assessment on a boy who had a terrible rotted tooth for over a year. Mom pulls out a bottle of year-old amoxicillin and Tylenol mixed together and says whenever he says he's in pain, like every few months, he gets one antibiotic pill and one Tylenol. When we tried explaining that antibiotics don't work when taken like that, she became really defensive. Don't tell me Elle don't know how to take care of my kid. Honestly, coming to the facility was probably good for him since they started making appointments to get the tooth looked at. My wife and I overheard a first date at the next table over. He gave a reasonably thorough synopsis of every episode of Breaking Bad, one by one, to a girl who looked miserable. I really wanted to stop him for the sake of the date, but that being said, he had pretty impressive recall to do them all from memory the way he did. My sister and her husband set me up on a date with one of their friends. We decided to double, so it was the four of us. My sister and her husband also decided to get divorced during the date. The story goes, after snipping at each other all evening in the middle of dinner, my sister hissed at my brother-in-law about him using again, and she didn't want to catch an STD. He snapped back that she needed to be F-king him to get an STD. I tried to get them to calm down, but they didn't even hear me. Worse, the friend, my date, was just laughing the entire time. The second the bill came, I was gone. Paramedic here. Got called to a house about 11:30 one night for a girl with fingernail polish in her eyes. Got there and the scene is a shit show. People screaming and throwing things around. We immediately noticed the mother holding down a younger girl and about to pour something in her eyes. Nail polish remover. Was giving a grown patient IV Benadryl for a rash and itching on the upper body. The IV was in the right arm, so I started to give the medication into the right arm. The patient panicked when I said I was done. What do you mean you're done? You only put it in my right arm. My left is itching too. I calmly explained that putting medication in the IV sends it to the whole body. She exclaimed, "You mean it even goes to my neck?" I said yes, and she said, "Wow." Working at OB/GYN clinic, had to explain to a concerned husband that his pregnant wife will not strangle the fetus if she eats spaghetti. That's a completely different system of organs. I worked as a waitress in an Italian restaurant for a while. An obvious first date one night. He had booked the reservation and requested a table in a secluded area. She arrived after him and asked to move to a table by the window. No big deal, but he was obviously annoyed. She then ordered a glass of the house red, and he obviously didn't like that either. What I picked up from their conversation, anything she said, he'd one-up her. Her degree, he had a better one. Her work? That was a pointless career choice, and besides, he made more money. He also made a comment about her order and how fattening it was. He then said that his family owned a vineyard and knew his red wine. He asked for the most expensive wine, rather than even trying our piss of a house wine. When I brought him a bottle, he went on about how the bouquet and clarity were so much better. She apparently had enough and flew into him for being a condescending POS and for knowing of asterisk CK all about wine. She told him her father was our wine supplier and the house red was exactly the same as the expensive stuff he had ordered. She asked me to confirm that, which I did. She then stormed out, leaving him speechless. I decided to ask out this coworker and suggested she come over for dinner, except I had no experience in the kitchen, no clue why I thought it would be a good idea, but I found a random recipe online for a chicken cooked in maple syrup. The second it hit the oven, I knew I'd made a mistake. It smelled weird, it was sticky, and I was a sweaty, syrup-covered mess before dinner even started. She hated it. We never hung out again. Work was awkward. To this day, my friends bring up the Stacy maple syrup chicken incident any chance they get. Not a doctor, but my human sexuality professor in grad school had some interesting stories. He worked a lot in very conservative Christian communities, and so a lot of times people got married with no sex education. One couple was in therapy because neither one of them enjoyed sex or ever had an orgasm. After having them talk through step by step what they did in bed, he learned the guy was just sticking it in and nothing else. He told the guy to move back and forth next time and see what happened. They came back one more time to say thank you and didn't need any more sessions. I had one young lady come up to me and tell me her grandma was on her period because there was blood in the toilet. However, she was 90 years old and had hemorrhoids. The date was fine, and we ended up back at her place. That's when I found out that she had a child who wasn't very cute, to put it nicely. That's not a big deal, except there were hundreds of pictures of this kid all over. We were kissing in bed, I looked over, and Sloth from the Goonies was staring at me from the dresser. Went to the bathroom, and there's Sloth again, watching me wee. Made coffee in the morning, and sure enough, Sloth had his bug eyes on me the entire time. Judge me all you want, but it was too much. No thanks to a second date. I have a friend that works in a doctor's office in Amish country in Pennsylvania. They had an Amish couple come in, saying that the wife couldn't get pregnant. They ran a couple tests, and everything was coming up normal. So then they gave him a cup and asked him for a semen sample. He came back with it full of his piss. He had been pissing in his wife, thinking that is how you impregnate someone. A woman kept getting pregnant within months of delivering the last baby, so her physician told her to take the pill. She comes back pregnant. The physician asks, "But didn't you take the pills?" "Yes, I added them to the food before serving the whole family." I took my very elderly Nana to the hospital after showed up to her house and found her slurring her words and behaving very strangely. Now, my Nana is a major hypochondriac, and when she was admitted, the first thing she told the doctor is that she believed she was experiencing the beginning signs of Parkinson's. It turned out that she had mixed up a bottle of non-alcoholic wine with a bottle of regular wine, had drank the entire bottle, and was completely hammered. While in dental school, my friend pulled out several bombed out, technical term, teeth on an adult male. After the procedure was finished and post-op instructions we given, the man asked, "So when should I expect my new teeth to grow in?" He was serious. My father saw a patient who was convinced that hospitals were a sham. She had cancer. She winds up on chemo for a bit, but very quickly tells my father she isn't going to be taking her medication anymore because she knows when she's being scammed. And the side effects of her medication were proof. Apparently, the chemo my father was prescribing was a ploy by Big Pharma. Apparently, that was what was actually causing the cancer in the first place. Well, she decides to go off her medication for a bit and starts feeling better, as no chemo, no side effects from chemo. She takes this as further proof that hospitals are a sham and starts blogging about it, posting online about how she's living proof that hospitals are fraudulent and telling people to stop buying Big Pharma's lies. She was then sent back to my father via ambulance sometime later. The test results were back and stage 4 cancer. She died in the hospital later that week. Patient comes into the ED with an abscess. Tells us he knew he had an infection and so ate 1.5 pounds of raw steak to get the antibiotics that were given to the cow.